Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of the Shoot Fast podcast. I am your host, Cody Axon, here with my co-host, Joel Park.
Hi.
Hello, Joel. So, this week we're going to talk about match performance. We've done episodes on dry fire, live fire, and kind of the third leg of that is going to matches and being able to do the stuff that you've been practicing. So, to start us off, when you go into a match, are you focusing on like what kind of match it is? Like it's a club match or it's nationals? Do you have different levels of focus that you put into different matches?
I think one of the big changes that I made this past year was treating every match like it really matters. So even at our indoor match that's 2 stages that really does not matter, I still don't want to mess up. Why are you even going to bother going if you're going to be like, well, I'll just swing for the bleachers, and if I hook up, that's cool, and if not, oh well, it's really not productive. So I try to do my best on everything, regardless of, in the grand scheme of things, if it matters or not. So, I do put more importance on nationals because it's tough not to, but I would like to treat every club match or local match like it's nationals.
Yeah, for the longest time, I was actually I almost had an opposite thing going where I was so focused on doing well at local matches because that was really what I wanted to do, was just be the best guy at the local club, and I wanted to beat everybody locally, that I would put so much more pressure on myself at local matches than I would at big matches, that I would usually shoot better at big matches than I would locally because I cared so much about beating the people I see every month, and I cared way more about that than beating people I only see a few times a year. So definitely you want to shoot every match like it really matters. And
not just dismissing something. Sorry to cut you off. If it's
no, absolutely.
Like if you have a miss, like, oh, it's just our local match. I'll just see what happens. Like, oh, I know I won't miss when it really matters.
Yeah, and I think it's really a dangerous thing to get into when you've practiced a bunch. Maybe you shoot at a smaller club and there's not anybody else who's really can challenge you. Especially if you shoot like maybe a 20-person club match. If you practice a bunch, it's pretty unlikely that there's anybody else out of 20 people at a USPSA match that actually also practices a lot and is also pretty good. So
right.
For a 5-stage match, if there's nobody else good there, you can have mics on maybe 2 stages and still win by a significant amount. And I think it's real easy to get into a mindset of, well, it's just a club match and, I screwed up, but I still won. And yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter if I win or not anyway, because it's the same local guys. I'm probably going to win either way anyway. So that's I think, a destructive attitude to have, because once you go into a major match, then you're going to say, okay, well, now it matters. Now I can't have those mics. And then you're going to have them anyway, because you're still the same shooter, whether you're at a big match or a small match. So you mess up the same things, but you put different levels of importance on them. And sometimes that can cause you to mess up even more, because now you're like, oh, I had a mic at a major match. It's all, everything sucks now. I'm going to go quit USPSA. Where if the whole time you had the attitude of I had a mic, everything sucks, and I'm going to quit USPSA, which is what I have.
Mainly self-hatred,
yeah. If you just hate yourself all the time, then when you hate yourself in a major match, it's not going to be surprising anymore.
It also helps you deal with match pressure, I think, also.
Yeah.
So then, because in years past, I'd go to nationals, be like, okay, this really, really matters. I really, really want to do well. And if I was used to having that much pressure on me every month, then I'm not saying it would be easier, but I would be more used to that. I can even remember it, like Make Ready, where I'm shaking so much, I'm worried that I'm going to miss the mag well, putting the mag into the gun on Make Ready. And I'm exaggerating only slightly. So I can remember that. And like rack the gun holster, I'm like, just calm down, it's going to be fine. But I'm so nervous. And if I was that nervous all the time, or, if I would have been more nervous like that beforehand, it maybe would not have seemed like such a big deal to me.
Yeah. And one thing that I've done that's helped a lot is, I joke about talking about hating myself, but I mean, it is true. When you put as much time, effort, and money went into this sport as people like Joel and I do, and I mean, there's a lot of people like us who obsess over this stuff. So when you're one of those people who obsesses over this and you put all your time and money into it, and you don't do well, it does lead to a lot of self-hatred and questioning why you're doing it and, wanting to quit, all that. I think one thing that's changed for me this past year that I've done differently that has helped a lot was not having that attitude all the time. I think for me personally, I'm so critical of myself all the time anyway. It helped for me to bring it down a little bit. To not
to get talked off the ledge.
Yeah, to get talked off the ledge.
Like, put the knife away. It's going to be okay.
To not freak out so much of whether or not I do well at this match or whether or not I do well on the stage is life or death, and whether or not I do well on this is going to directly affect my happiness for the next 6 months. That sort of thing. I think backing down from that a little bit helped me out a lot. But for some people, they need that. I think other people are on the opposite end where they're too lackadaisical about it, and they say, oh, well, it's just a club match. I missed, but it'll be fine. It's just a club match. Or maybe they screw up a bunch at a major match, and they just don't care. And honestly, I think those people aren't ever going to get that good because they don't care enough to really push hard and want to get better. So there's definitely a balance to hit. But sometimes people need a push in one direction or the other. But definitely you want to treat every match like it matters. And on the flip side of that, you don't want to treat some matches like they matter so much more. I think I'd get just as nervous at nationals last year as I did for like section matches.
For sure.
Certain situations in club matches. Not all the time in club matches because there's a certain degree of, I didn't travel here and there's no plaques on the line or anything like that. It's just a club match. You do have to kind of bring yourself up to that level because it's not inherently there, depending on what your personality is and where your priorities lie. But definitely, you don't want to go to other matches and be like, oh my god, this matters so much more, and I'm going to try so much harder, and I'm going to be so awesome now because this is when it really matters. It just doesn't work that way.
I think having people watch you, people realize, Cody puts a lot of effort into shooting, and so when he goes to shoot, people do stop and watch him. And I think that's also good for putting pressure on you because people are standing there, they expect you to be good. You put a lot of effort in, you should be good. I expect you to beat me. And so then when people are sitting there, or like when I got a 2-letter classification, all of a sudden, like, I'm supposed to go from 0 to hero, well, nobody really cared before.
GM are those 2 letters, by the way.
Thank you so much. Then people are like, well, he's supposed to be really good. Everybody stops, watch, and I think that was good for helping me perform under pressure also. Because people expect you to do well, and not that you need to feed into that and give an explanation for why things did or did not go how you want them to. But I think that's another good thing just for adding pressure. Yeah,
that pressure definitely exists. That was the thing I had issues with, when I was talking about how important local matches are to me. Even once I started getting better and I started caring more about big matches and I was doing better at big matches, I would still go back to our home club and shoot a match, and I'd be like, all right, like, I need to go and crush everybody, and I'm going to go so crazy. I'm going to shoot so well. It's going to be awesome. Everybody's going to see how awesome I am. And then when I screw up, then it's like it's embarrassing at that point. Even though, and I don't know if that's on our show notes or not, but one thing I do want to talk about is, I think this is a good point to transition, that people don't actually care how you do. Like, nobody... Like you're saying, people will stop and watch you shoot and whatever. If you mess up, they might ask you, what happened? Why did you screw that up? But the reality is that nobody really cares. Everybody's just focused on doing as well as they can. They care about their own scores at the end of the day. Whatever level of achievement they want to get to. Maybe they want to shoot a B class classifier, or maybe they want to beat all their friends who are in their class. Maybe they came with a buddy and they just want to beat their buddy. That's all they care about. Most people at a match don't care what you're doing, and the same thing applies from the other side. The guy who's trying to win the match, he's not really that concerned with what other people are doing, other than the other people who are trying to win that match. So everybody's kind of in their own little bubble of what they're worried about, and people don't care what you're doing. I think this is especially true for major matches. I think people get really wrapped up in the idea of, I'm at a major match, so I need to push hard, I need to look really good and shoot really well, and it really matters now. And I think there's a certain degree of, if I'm going to be on the squad of all these good shooters, I need to shoot like them, and I'm gonna be embarrassed if I don't shoot well in front of all these people. And the reality is, I very rarely remember what anyone else on my squad does at major matches unless it's one of my friends I came with, because I'm just focused on myself. I'm trying to do well, and whether or not the guy in front of me has 3 mics doesn't really affect me or not. So I don't pay attention, and I just move on, and I shoot within myself.
Yeah, I like it.
What do you do to train yourself to be able to shoot under pressure?
One of the things we started doing, I organized like an indoor practice group.
It's a class.
It's a practice group. I'm not instructing.
It is a class, though.
People pay the range. They do not pay me. I'm happy to organize it, and I want to practice together. And so if we set up, I organize, what drills we're going to do every month, and then normally I will demo the drill so I can show, people what I had in mind. And that's one of those things where everybody's standing there watching me. I'm not like their teacher by any means, but yeah, people are watching me. They expect me to do well on it. So that's stressful because, you want to hit it out of the park. You want to do well. So
I can tell you,
that's why I put you up on a couple of those. I was like, hey, everybody watch this. Cody's getting ready to smash this bill drill.
I can tell you, you call it a practice group, but I've been to it, and it's a class format. He just refuses to call it a class because he is somehow self-conscious about teaching a class. Now, that said, that is a really good thing for you because you're under that pressure of people are paying money to be there. You're the one organizing. You're the one deciding what they do, and people want to see you prove that you know what you're talking about and that the stuff that you're setting up for people to practice is good. And
that it works.
Yeah, that it works. So definitely there's that pressure. And the one time I went, you did put me up a few times to...
I put you up as much as I could. I told you I was going to.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that? Like on that bill drill, I remember that.
There was definitely some pressure to perform well. And I think anytime you can put yourself in that kind of situation, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that first one, I remember you hit it out of the park. You had... I don't remember what your time was, but you crushed it. You had, I think, all alphas. It was money.
I think I had all alphas, and it was like a 1.8 something.
But who's counting?
Who remembers these things? No, it was like a 1.85 or something like that.
It was awesome.
And it was all alphas. And it was really good.
Everybody's like, oh.
And then I tried to beat it on the 2 subsequent tries.
I was like, hey, Cody's going to do it again. Like, I'm just being a jerk at this point.
And then I wasn't nearly as good that my later tries. But hey, that first one was really good, and the first one is the one that matters, I guess.
Sure. What are any things you think about being more consistent or that you'd want to change about maybe how you act at matches?
Well, there's a lot of things I would change about the way I act at matches, but that's not related to shooting.
Well, you're, kind of a misfit.
Evidently, I used to be kind of a jerk at matches, and it's not because I don't like people or because I'm angry. Well, it's because I'm angry at myself. That's really what it comes down to. So that was one thing when I was talking about not taking it so seriously. That was one thing I adjusted, was trying not to be such a jerk at matches, because I evidently was walking around with a scowl on my face all the time, and if somebody tried to talk to me, I would just kind of blow them off.
That's why I just got used to saying, oh, that's not really Cody. You just have to get to know him.
Because, it was a problem. It was definitely something I was doing. But so things I like to do different at matches. We talked about on the dry fire episode how I used to just swing for the bleachers all the time in dry fire, and that really translated over to what I was doing in matches. I was just swinging for the bleachers all the time.
Because you made it a habit.
Because I made it a habit. So every time I was drawing the gun, every time I was practicing something USPSA related, I was just trying to go as fast as I could. And when you just try and go as fast as you possibly can every single time in practice, when it comes time for a match, and you're maybe not trying to go quite as fast as you can, it doesn't really work that way to never try doing that until you're on the clock at a match, and then all of a sudden try and be able to do that. So one thing I think we should talk about is kind of the general idea of the accepted way that you want to shoot at a match. So what I mean by that is when what all the best shooters do at a match, they are not going out and pushing hard and trying to go as fast as they possibly can. You watch a national champion or somebody like Ben Steger or Shane Coley or one of those guys or Max Michel. You watch one of those guys shoot, and like they get done shooting, and you're like, oh my god, that was so fast, that was amazing. But in their mind, what they're perceiving while they're shooting is they are aiming, they are relaxed, and they are trying to hit everything they're aiming at, and they are not going out there and just saying, I'm going to shoot as fast as I possibly can.
They're in control the whole time.
They're in control. It doesn't look like it from an outside perspective, but I can promise you they are in control, and they are seeing what they're doing, and they are very focused, and they are not perceiving things the way that we are, which is, oh my God, like I'm going to go so fast, I'm just going to burn everything down, it's going to be awesome. That doesn't work. So if...
It's also something they could repeat.
Yeah.
So if they had to do it, if they got a reshoot, it's not like they could never match that performance again.
Yeah.
Because that was within their ability. They were comfortable doing that.
And sometimes, when you're shooting like that, you go out and you have a smoke and run where everything just happens to line up perfectly. Your sights are exactly the way you want them to look on every target. You hit all your reloads right and everything, and sometimes you do just have a smoking run. But it's not because you were going out and trying to have a smoking run. It was because you're going out and you were shooting to your ability, and you were relaxed, and you were doing everything the way that you knew you could. And it just happened that everything lined up right. So that certainly happens. But if you're going to consistently do well on 5 stages at a club match, or 10 stages at a major match, or 20 stages at nationals, if you're going to do well across all those stages, you have to shoot every stage within your ability and not try and just step up and shoot one really good stage every single time.
Yeah, you want to have a good match, not a good stage.
Exactly.
So I think shooting within your ability just alleviates those train wreck stages that happen once in a while if you get to pushing too hard. And if you're the guy that's shooting consistently and in control, you're going to beat the guy that does have that one little train wreck from somewhere he pushes too hard, and that's enough to win.
Yeah, I remember when I was like just the guy who would swing for the bleachers and go as fast as I can, I would look at my match finish and I would go down the stage performance slot where it tells you how you place on each stage, and it would be like first, second, first, 10th, 8th. So the first, second, that's great and all, but when you have a 10th place finish and 8th place finish on a 5-stage match, in all likelihood, it's not going to work out for you the way you want it to in your overall placement. If you have, I think USPSA rewards consistency and being pretty good all the time way more than it rewards being great sometimes and terrible other times. Just having a good, consistent performance across all the stages is almost always going to work out better. Those big blow-ups where you have one stage where maybe you missed your draw or something like that, or you dropped a mag out of your gun prematurely.
I know that's happened too.
Yeah, I know a guy too. It happened a bunch, especially when he first started shooting TAMFOs.
It was terrible.
If you just drop a mag out of your gun and then it goes that goes south, and then you decide to go crazy, and then you shoot 3 mics and a no shoot, and you're 10 seconds off the pace or 5 seconds off the pace because you screwed something else up or your gun malfunctioned. Having those kinds of blowups will destroy your match. Whereas if you shoot every stage a little bit less than what you could have done at your maximum, your best run ever, that's just gonna work out so much better for you.
Yeah, because what's the worst? Like, luckily I was a little bit more mature in my shooting when that was happening to me, when I was having issues. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, that sucks. I guess I'm 2 seconds off the pace, but there's no reason to compound your problem by adding more damage. You just, didn't plan to do a reload there, and then you just get back on the plane and keep going.
Absolutely.
And yeah, hammering on some targets thinking, well, there's 2 seconds there lost. All right, I'm going to split these targets harder to make up the time that I lost. Kind of like what you were just saying. It's just, It's so ridiculous. But people do that all the time.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm even so guilty of it. There's been times where maybe I miss a steal a bunch of times early in the stage, and then it completely screws me up later down the line. That is definitely something I'm still working to train out, because once the mistake is made, there's no going back. You just have to accept that you made a mistake and move on, because trying to do something to make up for that mistake that you made is just going to lead to more mistakes, and it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, you can be angry about it later, but while you're shooting, it's just the time just to get over it and move along.
Exactly.
What about, how do you deal after you do have a bad stage? So you plug, you think it's some headshots, you end up pulling them low, and you get, 2 mic no-shoots or something. How do you recover from that?
Oh my god, I can't recover from just that idea of hitting 2 mic no shoots on a stage. That
I know it hasn't happened to you for months, probably. So
that's depressing. I've definitely done that plenty of times.
Yeah,
but,
everybody has.
So when you screw up, just like we're talking about, when you screw up in a stage and you're aware of it for some reason, there's a lot of times you screw up in a stage, you're not aware of it. Maybe you threw a mic over a target, and then you keep running and you move on, and you just didn't realize that it happened. And then there's other times where you do realize it happened, where maybe you had a mic on a target that was right in front of you, and you realized it when you did it, but then by the time you realized it, you're already gone and shooting the next position, and it wasn't worth going back for. I've done that plenty of times before, too.
Yeah.
But just like when you have those things that you're aware of while you're shooting, you can't go back and somehow shoot your way out of it in the middle of the stage. There's nothing you can do to fix some certain errors. That exact same thing applies when you're approaching an overall match. So once you've shot a stage and you screwed up, there's no going back. You can't just pound your feet and ask for a reshoot. Although we won't get into that.
Bad topic.
You can't just pound your feet and ask for a reshoot.
I have no input.
You can't. And you can't go back. You can't fix.
Should have just ran into the RO before you unload, but whatever.
Exactly.
I meant to go that way.
You can't go back and fix something once it's already screwed up. So rather than going into your next stage of saying, well, now I need to fix it because I did something terrible on the last stage, I need to go faster and try and make up the ground that I made up or that I lost, you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. So you just got to stay the course, keep doing as well as you can on every stage, and what your match placement at the end of the match will be whatever you deserve for that day or that weekend or whatever, if it's a bigger match.
And an interesting thought, you don't want to have those anywhere, but having that, just if you're thinking about the numbers, at a 2-stage indoor match, one of those is way more devastating than if it happens at Nationals.
Absolutely.
So Nationals, there was a couple stages where I'm like, I had misses everywhere. But I had a miss there, that sucked. Or maybe I thought my time was a little off the pace. Well, guess what? Everybody else, like a 16-stage match, everybody else is going to have one of those. Even the person winning the match, if you gave them a mulligan, they wouldn't say, no, I just shot so amazing. I don't want to redo everything. Yeah. So everyone wishes they could do that. So, yeah, you just have to move on. I'm usually internally angry. There's a couple times I'll unload. I go to refill my mags. I'm squeezing one of the mags so hard that if it was a pop can, I probably would have crushed it. And just get over it. This is really frustrating, but there's nothing else I can do about it. So
the one thing is the better you get, the more minor things are going to seem like big mistakes to you.
Totally.
So if you shoot a bunch of Charlies on a stage, it used to be that wouldn't bother me because it's I want to shoot alphas and Charlies, and alphas and Charlies are fine. As long as I don't have any misses, it's good. Now, if I shoot 10 Charlies on a stage, I'm pissed. I'm that may have been a miss or a penalty, and I'm very aware of the fact that shooting all those Charlies is not what I want to do. Or, you screw up your draw or something, and you maybe lose half a second off your draw. It's the worst draw ever. I'd had one of those just a couple weeks ago.
It was painful to watch.
It was the worst draw of my entire competitive shooting life. So maybe you have one of those draws, but everything else goes really well. Or maybe you do have a mic, but otherwise it was a perfect stage run. Maybe you had all alphas and one mic, and it was really fast. A lot of times that's not that devastating. You can recover from that, and that's still going to end up being a pretty good stage run. But the better you get, the more those small mistakes are going to bother you, and the more you have to get over the fact that those little mistakes happen to everybody. And just like you said, the top guys are still going to want to go back and reshoot some stuff, or they would if they had the chance. Or there's certain things that they just didn't like about their match performance.
I think your perception of time gets a little bit skewed also when you're behind the gun. Yeah. So there'll be times where I'll be like, man, I should have shot those poppers in a different order. It must have took a full second for that popper to fall. And then you're watching it was maybe 0.2 of a second. Yeah. But to me, it seemed like I could have went to my car, got a drink of water, and came back and still been waiting for that popper to fall.
People vastly overestimate, and you in particular, you're terrible about this. People vastly overestimate how much certain mistakes cost them, especially in terms of time. So like you said, yeah, maybe you missed the popper the first time, you got to go back for it, and you got to wait for it to fall because there's something behind it, or maybe it activates a swinger or something like that. So you're standing there and you feel like it takes forever and you just screwed up everything. Or you run into a position and you miss a piece of steel twice, and then you gotta go back for it, and you're like, oh my god, that cost me like 5 seconds. And you watch the video, it maybe costs you 1 second. So don't trust whatever your instinct is for how long it's taking you, because it's probably wrong. And just let the timer do what it's going to do, because, you know, throwing a fit and throwing your hands up in the air and saying, oh my god, that was so terrible, it was the worst, I'm the worst shooter ever, it's not really productive. And most of the time you're going to overestimate how bad these things really are.
Yeah, I completely agree. How would you treat going to a match even if there isn't any competition for you? I know we talked about this a little bit, but you go to a match, there's no heat for you.
Yeah, I mean, so we're pretty fortunate in the area that we shoot, that you shoot production, I shoot limited. For both of us, there are people locally who are, you know, pushing us and are pretty much as good as us or better in some cases. So
better for sure.
Better for sure. Having that local competition, and even though we shoot different divisions, having you and I shooting together is also really good, because I can see what you do, and if you do something better than me, I think that's terrible, and if I do something better than you, like you think that's
I encourage
terrible.
I encourage you.
Well, yeah,
if I do better, you cut me down.
I encourage you either way, but when you do something, mostly because you're shooting a different division, but if you were to like run a stage faster than me shooting production, then I'm shooting it in limited, then I would hate myself and I would probably cry. But that stuff does happen, and I do hate myself and I do cry. But so we're fortunate in that we have people to compare ourselves against. But maybe you are that guy. You're the only guy at your club who really cares, who really tries hard. And maybe you're a GM and everybody else is C class,
or you're a B class, and the rest of them are all in D class for that matter, or C class, whatever. So
you're the only guy, and you know when you walk onto that range, no person there can touch you. You have that level of confidence in your ability, which maybe isn't a good thing, but there are those people, there are those situations, and there are those clubs. So you can go into that situation and say, pretty much no matter what I do today, I'm going to win. So I'm going to go balls out, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to shoot super fast, I'm going to, take all these videos and post them on Instagram, it's going to be awesome. Or, you have a mic and you realize, well, nobody's going to beat me anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's going to be really destructive long term, like we talked about before, with treating every match the same. So even if there's nobody there who's going to be able to beat you, you still need to shoot the match as though somebody who's going to beat you is there. And you need to shoot every stage as though you're trying to beat the best guys, or you're trying to beat somebody who's, basically you're being chased by somebody who's just as good as you, or maybe even a little bit better, all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have anything to add on that?
Nah, I was thinking there was a steel challenge match that I went to where I thought I was going to be shooting against some of the local dudes, and I found out one of them had brought a rifle to shoot. The other one ended up not going. I'm like, oh, this is kind of dumb. And so I ended up just I kind of checked out, I think, which was really dumb. And it was after Nationals, so I was just hanging out with my friends, but it really wasn't that productive at all. There was really no reason to be there if I wasn't going to be focused. I should have tried to win the overall. So that ate at me a little bit. Because I remember you texted me, because you were working, you texted me like, hey, your time sucked. What was up? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I guess I didn't really need to try that hard. Mm-hmm. But it really wasn't productive at all. That was a dumb thing to do.
Yeah, I know we have said before, we pretty much only talk about USPSA here, but Steel Challenge is a really good measuring stick. We shoot Steel Challenge at our local club. I mean, it's ran at our local club probably 4 times a year or so. And one thing that's really nice about Steel Challenge is, it's like bowling, where it's the same every time, or, golf at the same golf course, where you can really easily measure what your time is on one day versus what your time is on another day. Where in USPSA, we really don't have that. Like, yeah, there's classifiers, but you only shoot the same classifier once every few years, maybe. So being able to go into a match and, shoot the same stages every time, you can, even if there is nobody else there who is going to beat you, you can look at your previous times, and the goal is to beat those previous times, or it's to maybe perform at very close to your best times, your historic best times on every single stage. You can measure against yourself a lot better with Steel Challenge than you can with USPSA. But you still want to apply that same attitude towards USPSA. Even though it's a stage you've never shot before and you will never shoot again, you still want to shoot this stage better than you 6 months ago would have shot it, or you keep moving up, you keep getting better all the time.
Yeah, I agree. So what matches are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I haven't quite figured out which matches I'm going to shoot entirely.
Or how do you decide what? I should phrase that differently. How do you decide what matches you're going to shoot?
Yeah.
Obviously, probably not going to as many as you possibly can is a good idea. But maybe.
If I had unlimited time, if I didn't work, and I didn't have to worry about money, like let's say I worked for a gun company and the gun company would pay for me to go to as many matches as I want and pay all my expenses. We know people who are like that. If that were the case, I would go to tons and tons of matches, and I would probably be more able to figure out there's a critical mass there where if you're going to a major match every single weekend and you're constantly traveling to major matches, there's a certain point where that's going to be a detriment. I don't know where that point is.
But where are you going to train?
Because I've never been close to that point. But if I were at that point, I would be able to tell you. But yeah, because certainly if you went every single weekend, that's a day of travel on either end where you're not practicing. That's 2 days while you're at the match where you're not practicing, or maybe you just dry fire a little bit at night or something like that.
So what about living on planet Earth? What are you thinking
so living on planet Earth, I think the last couple of years I've done about five or six major matches a year, which I think is a pretty good number for most people. Most of the major matches I go to are relatively close within driving distance, and they don't cost a whole bunch of money for me to go to. So, keeping things like that helps me not blow out my entire shooting budget on, hotel costs and airplanes and all that stuff. So probably the first criteria I use to decide which major match I'm going to shoot is, distance and when is it, what's going to cost for me to get there, that sort of thing. Because like we're talking about, I do live on planet Earth. I do have to pay for this myself, and I do have to, take time off work usually, and I have all that going on. So if I don't have to take time off work and it's within, close driving distance, I'm going to go. Like almost always I'm going to go. So matches like that for me are Area 3, the Great Plains section, which is just at the club that we normally shoot at, and the Iowa section, which is another club that we shoot at sometimes. It's only 2 hours away from where we live. And this year I'll probably go to the Kansas Free State match if it falls on a day where I'm able to get work off. So matches like that where they're within a few hours and they're relatively affordable match fees and I don't have to spend a whole bunch of money, I'm going to go to those. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. I think most people, their first kind of foray into going to major matches is just going to whatever's close to them, and they kind of get into it that way, and then see that major matches are maybe a little different than what they expected. They're different from club matches. They just kind of have a different feel to them. There's more people there, and once people start to get addicted to that, then you start looking at expanding out and maybe driving further, shooting matches that are longer, and trying to going to bigger and bigger matches. I think most people kind of go through that progression. And so, like I said, that's kind of the first step for me. Is that the first step for you?
Yeah, I would agree. And kind of just to expand on, I think it's good to go to a handful of matches a year because it doesn't put all your emphasis on one match. So, for instance, I'm going to save all my money. I'm going to train all year, and then I'm going to go shoot nationals in, 2018, and it's going to be amazing.
Which that was you in 2016.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was getting to that. Would be dumb because, yes, I did do that 2016 where nationals was, I think it was late August. It was a couple weeks after. We left a couple weeks after. It was Area 3.
Yeah, it was like the second weekend in August.
And it was Area 3 weekend. I'm like, I'm just going to skip it. I don't really care. And so instead I shot, I think, 1,500 rounds that weekend. I thought, I'm just going to train harder, and I'll just wait and go to nationals. Then when I got to nationals, I had all this.
Keep in mind, for those unaware, Area 3 that year and most years is only 2 hours away from us. And so he chose not to go to a major match that was 2 hours away, which plenty of people drive that far for a club match.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but by doing that, because I thought, it's a match I don't really care about going, going to be hot. I'm good. Instead, I'll just wait and go to nationals. It put more pressure on nationals. Then when I got there, it's like, okay, my whole year is winding up to this moment. This matters for the whole year, as opposed to, last year we went to nationals. By then, I'd already shot a couple area matches, a couple section matches. It's not just another match, but you are more used to, shooting over multiple days. Still at an area match you care about because there's always heavy hitters there. So it's just as stressful because you care about doing well. So I think it sets you up to be in a better spot than just putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
so.
I agree totally. So last year, as part of what we're talking about with, putting more pressure on yourself throughout the year and doing more matches so that you don't have one match that's your whole emphasis. I did more area matches last year. I think I did 4 out of the 8 area matches last year. And pretty much every area match you go, there's going to be, a handful of guys who are like solid GMs or, that at least at that level. And there's usually going to be at least 1 or 2 guys who are like your legitimate national champion level shooters, whether they've won one or not, but they're at that level. So that gives you that ability to measure yourself throughout the year and see how you're doing. And then when it comes time for nationals, because Joel and I are both of the mindset where, we shoot nationals every year. I've been doing it for 3 years now. You've been doing it the last 2 years, right?
Yep.
And you're planning on going this year, right?
Yep.
So we're both of the mindset where we shoot nationals every year, and that's kind of what we train for and what we're trying to do well at. Just because, I don't know, just because it's cool.
Gives you something to direct your training towards.
Yeah. So we're both in the mindset that we're going to try and do as well as we can at nationals. And rather than, like Joel said, just building that up as the only match that matters all year, by putting more matches that matter throughout the year, you help yourself kind of combat that idea that this is the only one that matters. Because I can say, I shot 4 area matches last year and probably 3 or so, 2 or 3 section matches, and then nationals. I think I shot 2 section matches, 4 area matches, and nationals, and then some club matches here and there.
The other thing I like is by going to different clubs, they all kind of have a different flavor. Mm-hmm. So maybe our area is a little bit more hosey,
which they've gotten a lot better about lately.
Yeah. But just as a general statement, where like we go to in Ankeny, you go to the Iowa section match, which was awesome. They had 40, maybe 45-yard mini and large poppers, which was, that's something we never do at our club. So by going to different matches, matches kind of have a flavor, I would say, is a fair statement. And so you just get to see different styles of stages. Because if you just shoot your area and your club or your section, they're kind of all within your state or close to you, they're probably going to be very similar in, makeup for what they do for the stages.
Absolutely. So all those different matches I shot last year, I had varied results. I had some where I was real happy with my placements, other ones where I wasn't so happy. And a lot of that was, maybe the way I approached the match, and I can kind of test out different things of mindset and just my general, just where my head's at when I'm shooting the match and what I'm trying to do. And so there was one match in particular where I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to try and shoot points, and I'm going to let the time, just not worry about the time at all, and not really push too hard, and as long as I shoot alphas, I'm good. Well, when I did that, I figured out that just caused me to shoot way too slow. I could watch my video, and I'm like, I have no idea. I've never shot that slow in my life. I don't know why I'm doing that. So by being able to kind of test out those different things at matches, which isn't necessarily the best way, but it's going to happen. You have to have a certain idea of what you're going to do during the match, and that's going to affect how the match actually turns out. So rather than going to one match a year and having that be the one where I test out how it's going to go, then I get a better idea that way. And back to what Joel was saying about shooting a bunch of different matches and not putting all the pressure on one, there were some matches where I didn't do so well, and to a certain degree, the reason why I didn't do well at the matches I did was because of the flavor of the match and the types of skills it was testing. So I have a tendency to do pretty well at matches that have quite a few no-shoots, a lot of static shooting, I tend to do pretty well, where you don't have to like shoot things as you're running full speed by them. Matches without a lot of movers, that sort of thing. I have a pretty good idea of the things that I'm good at and the places where I tend to place well. Things where I don't place well anymore are things where things are really spread out, where there's like tons of long movement. It's just not a flavor that's good for me. And so you have to weight that of, well, do I want to do well at those matches, or do I want to? Is there certain other kinds of matches I want to do well at? Because there's a lot of different skills we test in USPSA, and you have to decide what you want. I mean, most area matches and major matches are not hose fests where everything's 3 to 5 yards away and open targets. But if you only shoot at your local club, and that's what your local club sets up, then that might be your perception of how good you are, is how well you're able to do at those kind of matches. And then when you go to a major match, you get completely crushed by the difficulty of it because it's something you've never seen before.
So it helps you identify things that you want to work into your training.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, back to match choices. So you and I both agree we're going to shoot nationals either way.
Yep.
And so one thing for me this year that I'm doing, nationals is in Frostproof, Florida, where it's been a bunch of times. So I'm kind of doing a lot of research about what matches there look like. I have watched a lot of previous nationals videos from their range, because ranges have a certain flavor of how they're going to set up matches, and they tend not to deviate too much from that. It's very rare where you go to a match at a range and it's totally different from anything else they've ever put on there. The same people are setting it up. The same people kind of have the same mentality, and whether they recognize it or not, it's just gonna happen that way in reality.
Yeah, so it's like doing your homework before you go.
Yeah, and so part of me doing my homework for going to nationals in Frostproof this year is going to the Florida Open, because it's set up by the same people who set up nationals, even if it's not the exact same people. There are the same. Like Shannon Smith is the guy who kind of runs a lot of the stuff down there, and there's a handful of other guys who help him out. But he has a certain way that he puts on matches, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how they do it. So by shooting a match earlier in the year, that's going to be very similar, I believe, to what nationals is. It's not going to be the same stages, but it's going to have the same general skill set being tested and the same. There's really not a better way to describe it than just flavor. There's a certain flavor to how matches are put on a certain range.
Yeah.
And so by testing that flavor early in the year, it gives me the whole year to train. And then come the end of October, I think it is this year, the end of October, I will have had that much time to train and get better between now and then. What are you looking at for this year?
Kind of the same deal as you. I think pretty much we'll all go to the same. Anything in our immediate range, especially they're all pretty well spread out. So Area 3, Area 4, Iowa section, Great Plains section. The Free State I went to last year was really good. I liked that. Those guys have a good range. That was one of those things at Free State last year. They had like these 50-yard, it seemed like 40 to 50-yard full USPSA targets. I hadn't shot many of those. We'd only seen a couple of those in Iowa, so that was something else. I got home like, oh, I need to practice that apparently, because that's a problem. And so when I saw the stages, I wasn't afraid of it at all. I just obviously didn't give those targets as much attention as I needed to. So that was something when I came home to focus on my training. But to answer your question, yeah, just in the immediate area, nothing I have to travel too far to. Within 8 hours, let's say 8 or 10 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be flying to Florida for nationals, flying for Florida Open, and I probably won't fly to any other matches this year just because, money.
Yeah. That's nice having a driver, even though you hit the rumble bars when I'm trying to sleep.
Yes.
And you make me your bellhop to take all your bags in. But
you gotta pay for your way somehow. So
yeah,
I would say definitely the testing different flavors thing certainly applies for local matches. If you only ever shoot your own local matches, you're probably not setting yourself up for the most success, unless you just happen to shoot at a club where you have like a really exceptional match director, really exceptional stage designers, or maybe you have a few really good shooters there who kind of run the club and they know what stages look like nationally, and they do a really good job of mixing it up. The vast majority of places you're gonna fall into one kind of category, and most of the stages are going to be like that. So I specifically remember being completely crushed, like distraught.
I know you're going with this.
I was completely crushed after we shot a match at a different club, which was the same club that puts on the Iowa sectional in Ankeny, because they had a bunch of shots that were so hard. Like, there was one stage where...
Were you saying, like, so hard? It was a headshot at, I think, 25 yards.
There was 4 of them.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, there was four targets that were essentially headshots. I mean, there was a little bit more, but they were essentially headshots at 20 to 25 yards. And that was just one stage. There was other stages where there was other really hard stuff, but that one stage in particular stands out as kind of an example of how hard it was. So I shot that match, and I'd already, like, done pretty well at some, like, area matches the year before. I think I got, like, 55th at nationals the year before, which I was really happy with. To get into the top 100, and there was a lot of really good shooters there. I was feeling like, I'm getting pretty good at this. I'm starting to figure it out. And then I went to this club match, and I got completely crushed by the stages. I could not hit any of what the shots were asking you to do. I think I got like 4th at that match, and I got beat by a bunch of guys who shoot there all the time and kind of know what to practice to do well there. And
yeah, I remember that.
And like, I can't overemphasize how
remember the conversation on the way home was like, we suck at these things, so the next practice, these will be things we're setting up.
Yeah. So that was one of the best things I've done for my shooting, is getting an idea of where I actually am at and what kind of things I can't do, because I went home and I practiced those things a lot. I practiced them in live fire, practiced them in dry fire, and I would say the really difficult shots tend to be things that I do well at now, whereas before, if I saw a really difficult shot on a stage, I'm like, well, this is probably a stage I'm not going to do as well at. So by getting that variety, it helps make you a more complete shooter and helps you know where to direct your practice to get better. That said, you and I both, our training all year kind of is directed towards what we think nationals is going to be. And, nationals is generally a lot of partials, very difficult shooting, and it's usually not a hose fest. It's not a run and gun type match. So when I get to hose fest, run and gun type matches, I tend to not do as well, and that's okay in my mind. I mean, I want to do as well as I can at every match, but if there's certain matches that are just set up for a different type of shooter, then I'm not going to freak out about it and, say I need to go practice run and gun and hose fest as long as possible, because in my mind, and
it's not that you struggle or you can't do well at them. You just maybe excel at something else more.
Yes.
It's not that you're struggling and you can't still hose targets.
Yeah.
It's just not a specialty.
It's not a specialty, and it's not something I'm going to go home and, like, I'm going to hammer this super hard now. I didn't do well at a hose fest match, and so now I'm going to go home and just practice hosing as hard as I can, so that way next year I can go back and hose like so awesome. I would rather, kind of stay the course and get better at the things I need to get better at. But that said, if it is a weakness for me, hosing is still part of the USPSA and is still something you need to be good at. So if I go there and I get completely smashed and realize that my hosing isn't as good as it needs to be, then I will work on it and incorporate more of that into my training and work on getting better.
That'd be fun to watch. You were so good at hosing before. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as good as I used to be, but it does look good on Instagram. I'll give it that. All right. Anything else you want to say about match performance?
Nope. I think that was awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you next week.